This question comes from Jerry Sun. What if Earth rolled onto its side, like a cosmic basketball spinning sideways on a fingertip? Imagine the North Pole pointing straight at the sun, while the equator stretches up like a belt around our planet's waist. Would penguins tan in Texas? Would deserts bloom overnight? Let's crank Earth's tilt from 23.5 degrees all the way to 90 degrees, and see what happens. What does 90 degrees even mean? Right now, Earth spins with a slight lean, 23.5 degrees. That gentle wobble gives us spring, summer, fall, and winter. But what if we crank that up to 90 degrees? It would be like Earth suddenly deciding to lie down for a nap, with one pole always facing the sun, and the other buried in darkness. In this new world, seasons wouldn't just change, they'd dominate. The hemisphere tilted toward the sun would get 6 months of endless daylight and blistering heat. The opposite hemisphere, 6 months of freezing cold, starlit nights. This isn't just weird, it's catastrophic. Day and night, chaos across the globe. Forget sunrise and sunset. Near the equator, places like Kenya, Ecuador, and Indonesia would swing between total darkness and non-stop sunlight. Imagine living in Nairobi and watching the sun not rise for 6 months, or waking up in Jakarta and realizing the sun hasn't set for weeks. Even the poles would flip roles. The North Pole would bake under constant daylight for half the year, while the South Pole freezes in eternal night. And humans, we're built for rhythm, sleep, eat, repeat. But here, our internal clocks would shatter. Jet lag. Try planetary lag. Climate chaos. Welcome to the weather Wild West. With the sun now blazing over one hemisphere and abandoning the other, global weather patterns go haywire. Rainforests dry up in their long winters. Deserts flood under monsoons when the hot zone swings over them. Texas could freeze solid 1 year and burn the next. New York might become a tropical paradise, then a tundra. Oceans swell and shrink as ice caps melt and reform every few months. This isn't climate change, it's climate whiplash, superstorms, and ocean madness. The oceans would be caught in a tug-of-war. Warm currents like the Gulf Stream would vanish, replaced by chaotic flows of boiling and freezing water. Hurricanes, they'd grow stronger and last longer, some possibly circling the globe. Coastal cities would be battered by massive storm surges, tsunamis triggered by underwater landslides. And sea levels, they'd rise and fall like the tide, but on a yearly scale. Imagine Miami vanishing underwater, then drying up again the next season. Welcome to the era of climate roller coasters. Life on a spit, evolution in overdrive. Most animals wouldn't survive the first few years. Crops would fail. Migratory birds would get lost. Forests would die off in the darkness. But life adapts, or dies trying. Some species might evolve to hibernate through the long winters. Others could develop ultra-sensitive eyes to navigate perpetual twilight. Humans, we'd retreat underground, build solar farms near the poles, create artificial day/night cycles in biodomes, and maybe, just maybe, we'd start building floating cities that follow the sun like giant skycruisers. Survival mode activated. Moonlight madness. Even our moon would look different. Tides would surge unpredictably, flooding coastlines and draining bays. The moon itself might appear to rise from the horizon sideways, or even hover low like a spotlight. Romance under the stars? Sure, if you can handle the lunar equivalent of vertigo. Hope in the heat. Despite the chaos, there would be beauty. The Arctic and Antarctic could bloom into seasonal paradises, lush forests, blooming flowers, and summer skies stretching forever. Solar panels would harvest power non-stop during the long days. Sunsets, they'd stretch across the entire horizon, like horizontal auroras. And humanity, we'd learn to adapt. Maybe we'd finally unite, not as nations divided by borders, but as one species, chasing light across a tilted world. Because no matter how strange things get, life finds a way.